Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast. And this evening, we are taking a different turn here in terms of our content. We're doing a combat sports podcast here this evening. And today, I'm joined by two very special guests. I am joined by ISKA Irish champion and Four Nations champion Dylan Meagher, and also fellow professional fighter Erik Hehir from Courage Muay Thai. How are you going this evening, lads?
Good, okay. Good, mate. How are you doing those things?
Thanks very much, lads, for taking the time to come on the podcast. I know two of you are very busy with your training, and especially yourself, Dylan, with your recovery, which we're going to kind of delve into kind of later on in the show. So, lads, for people who don't know, for all of our football kind of related watchers, these two lads here are professional fighters from Clonmel here in Tipperary, in my local town here in Ireland. And the two lads here fight at a very high level in Muay Thai, which is a very popular sport here in Clonmel and in Ireland in general. And Dylan, I'm going to kind of come to you first with kind of regards to your fighting career. Like, what made you take up kind of combat sports and Muay Thai, and what gave you the inspiration to kind of take that up?
I suppose originally what got me to take it up, Keane, was like I played a lot of GA when I was younger. I think most people growing up in Ireland do play GA at some stage in their life, like, don't you? You know, and I kind of lost interest with it at around 11 or 12, and I started to put on a bit of weight for the next 2 or 3 years. And then the injury I'm recovering from now happened to me when I was 14. I tore my ACL as a young fella, and I just never got it fixed. And it was after that, after I must have put on 20 kilos of weight, I said, I need to do something to try and shift this now. And I was thinking of something. I didn't want to go back to GA, and I didn't really want to play rugby. And one of my friends was telling me there's a Muay Thai gym in Clonmel, and I was like, I didn't have a clue what Muay Thai was. He was telling me these mad stories like about lads kicking sandbags and stones inside the mat. I was like, Jesus, that sounds intense. Like, but I went in for a session anyway, and like as they say, the rest is history. Like, you know, I got hooked on it. I suppose it started as a thing to lose weight, but I know once I was doing it a couple of months, I really I kind of felt like I belonged there almost. You know, like I felt like I fitted in somewhere, because I never really felt like that in the GA either. I never really enjoyed that. I was kind of just doing it to do something, you know. Yeah. Whereas with Muay Thai, when I started it and I started to see myself losing a bit of weight, I was like, geez, I'm actually really enjoying this. Yeah, exactly. And then it took about a year. I was like 102, 103 kilos at 14. It took about a year for me to lose about 10 kg to get down to 93 kilos, I remember, because I had a white-collar charity boxing fight a year after training against a guy a lot older than me, and he punched me around the ring. But that actually gave me the motivation to be like, okay, I actually need to start losing some more weight here, and I need to take this more seriously. And within another year then, I was actually 75 kilos, and I had my first amateur fight, you know. So, I mean, from there, I've just been going ever since. It was just something that I really fell in love with, and it just hooked me, you know. And when I saw the benefits of weight loss, first of all, and then I started to see my self-confidence grow, and I started to make new friends, and I started to get on, and I could speak better in public, and I wasn't always kind of trying to put on a front almost, like, do you know what I mean? Because like, I think anyone that does a sport like we do as well, like, you don't have you're not trying to prove things to people as you go around, exactly. You know. For yourself. I think a lot of teenagers go through that, like, and I was definitely going through something like that, where you're trying to put on a front for people, like, thinking you're this and you're that, like, whereas you're really not, like, you know. And when you go into a Muay Thai club or a boxing club or some sort of a club like this, and you start realizing that you're here, like, when the rest of the boys are here, that really gives you a kind of a slap in the face, I think, you know, and it just wakes you up. And that's kind of what got me hooked on it then, is when I see my self-confidence growing, I actually saw myself getting better and, you know, making new friends, losing weight, and I was like, geez, this is great. Like, and ever since then, I've just been hooked on it. You know, so it's, it really just brought me in.
Yeah, and like the path you've taken to combat sports is kind of, it's very, like, in Ireland, you always see people have a journey of GAA, soccer, rugby, you know, whatever. Yeah. And then most people, like any professional fighter, Conor McGregor, you know, Mick Conlan, all them kind of started out doing them sports, and then they picked up fighting. Yeah. And, you know, that they found that as their passion. You know, you've kind of taken that similar route, and you've fought at a very, very high level.
As you said, I don't think the GA is for everybody, though, you know, like, people love their GA, and
here in Ireland has done it, like,
exactly, most people have done it in school, but it's not for everyone. And I think then some people find it hard to find a new sport, you know what I mean? So that's why I always encourage people that feel a bit left out in those sports to try something like combat sports, because really at the end of the day in a combat sport, it's you against you. It's not if you have a bad game, or if someone else in the team has a bad game, they let down the whole team. Like, it's all on you in a combat sport, you know what I mean? So I think it makes you take responsibility for yourself.
Yeah, and you look in GAA, you take enough smacks as well. It's nearly like being in the fucking ring anyway.
Definitely, yeah.
Eric, you yourself, like you previously lived over in Sweden, and you know,
Yes.
did you take up Muay Thai before you travelled over to Ireland, or was this kind of a thing you took up when you travelled over here?
Yeah, right. So when I was living over in Sweden, I did Shotokan karate for, I'd say I was about 4 or 5, and then I was doing taekwondo for a while as well. But it was actually, my father met Walter Scott at an ATM in Callan, I think it was. I'd say we're going back about, I'd say this is 12, 13 years ago now. And he had the Courage Muay Thai hoodie on. So my father asked him, have you a Muay Thai club around? Because my father would have been into Kempo when he was younger. So then I think it was the next day or something, we went into the hall in Mullinahone and we started training Muay Thai. So that's where it started.
He's been there like 6 or 7 years longer than I have. He's there since the old days, like, you know.
The early days.
Yeah,
exactly.
That was an old pub, I think, wasn't it?
It was before that, man.
Before that again, was it?
It was it's a card game. It's a whist. It's a whist hall or something like that.
Right.
You know, the old ones used to play cards in there. And then I'd say we were there for about 2 years, and then we moved to Lismalin pub.
Lismalin, that was right. Yeah.
But yeah, I've been doing it ever since.
Absolutely, and like, you know, you obviously you have a passion for it. In fact, look, you've taken up from a young age. You've kind of just taken like a direct path into combat sports. It wasn't a case where, you know, you didn't have any kind of, you know, detours supposed to combat sports. You kind of had kind of direct route. You've been taken up from a young age, so it's obviously a passion of yours.
Yeah, exactly. But it's exactly like Dylan was saying, you know, it's the whole the confidence. I'm cursing already.
Yeah. I love Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that.
It's the whole confidence thing as well. You know, it's you know, there's like kind of a practice of mindfulness. Do you know what I mean? Like, but when we're in contact sports, you know, when you're hitting pads or something like that, you're thinking about hitting pads. That's it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's the whole mental health aspect of it as well. Like, you know, it's therapy in a way. Like, you know, so that's another reason why I really enjoy it. Like,
yeah. And Dylan, like your kind of fighting career was going to touch on, and you've obviously you fought in the amateur circuit in your early days. After you took your white collar boxing fight, your career's kind of taken off from there. Talk to us a bit about kind of your road to your titles and kind of your kind of path to professional fighting. Yeah,
well, I suppose it's like anything in life. It's a lot of up and downs, and I suppose the first down was, as I said, losing the white collar fight, and that made me realise, geez, I need to start training a bit harder here if I really do want to do something with this. So it took me to, as I said, it was 93 kilos taking that fight. I dropped down to 74, and I had my first amateur fight at 74 kilos. I won that. It was a close fight, but I won, and that gave me a bigger buzz again. I was like, oh my God, I can actually beat people. So I was like, I can do this shit, like, you know. And then I kept going, and I think it was another couple of months before I had another fight, because there was a period there, you even remember, where shows were quiet. There wasn't too many fight shows going on, to be honest. There was one every 2 months, maybe, you know. There wasn't a lot going on. So it took me a while to get a second fight, and then I had that one. Then I had my leaving cert. So again, I was just training away during the leaving cert. I wasn't fighting, but once I finished my leaving cert and I got into the summer of after 6th year, basically, that's when I started to pick up the pace. And I think I had my last 4 amateur fights from that space till from the summer to January. I won all them. I think I was 6-0 as an amateur. So then I remember Wally always said that to me. He said if you win 5 fights in a row, we'll let you take a C class fight. You know.
Next step
so
up, like.
I had 5 amateur wins, and I had my first C class, and I won that. And it was actually after the C class I went back to fight another amateur fight, because there was a fight going, and I was mad to actually have a fight at that time. I was just trying to stay as busy as I could. So at that stage I was there, and then I decided, that was after my first year in college, I decided to go to Thailand for a month. So I was saving up money for the year in college, just living on scrubs, like, to be honest. I don't even know how I made weight for some of the fights in college. Pasta and ketchup dinners, like, you know, he knows all about it. But that's the way I was living. I was saving to go to Thailand, and went there for a month, and I hurt my knee, the knee that I have had surgery on. This has been bothering me for years on and off now. I had hurt that in the fight, and I hadn't trained Muay Thai in about 2 or 3 months. From, I'd say, March to June, I was just doing a lot of weights. That's when I got into weight training and like rowing machines, stuff like this. I kind of stepped up my training in that way. Went out to Thailand, started kicking pads again, and within 4 days they asked me did I want to fight. And I was like, well, I'm here now. Like, I'm not going to say no.
Yeah,
May as well.
The whole experience, like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, while you're over there. So that was an A-class fight. It was actually my second pro fight was straight to A-class. You know, most people have 5 or 6 C-class, couple of B-class, then they go to A-class. Whereas my second was A-class against a fairly experienced American dude. Again, beat him. And then after that, again, I was like, oh my God, this is the best buzz ever. I just want to fight in Thailand. And ever since then, it's kind of snowballed on. I think I actually got to 6-0 as a pro before I had my first title fight, the Irish title against Wayne Grant. I lost that. It was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, because when you're winning all the time, you get this idea like, oh, sure, I can't be beaten. I'm the best.
You kind of get that air of invincibility, like you think you can't be beaten.
You do, exactly, yeah. And like, it's good to think that to yourself, like, I am the best and I can be the best, but it's not. I was almost dismissing opponents, like, sure, what's he going to do?
Can't be arrogant.
You can't be arrogant. You can't look down on these people. And he had a lot more experience than I did, and he kicked the leg off me in that fight. I still went to 5 rounds with him, like, but I clearly lost. So that was a wake-up call for me. I won, I don't know, I get, maybe another 6 fights in a row after that. And then I got my next shot at the Irish title. So that was against Keith Evans in October.
Yes, I remember.
So Erik fought that night as well against the really experienced Owen McCarthy. And I think Ian Crotty fought that night as well for the Irish title. That's right. That was one of the best nights we've ever had in the club, because it was my first Irish title. I actually fought, there was the 3 of us fighting, and I remember Martin asked me, he said, what order do you want to go on? And he said, do you want me to put you on last? And I said, no. I said, I want to go on first before the boys, because I want to do their corner, and I want to go out and I want to smash this fella. Just show them, like, this is how we're doing it tonight. Like, that's the way it's going.
So that's making a statement right there. It's like, look, you're a head coach. I'm going to go out, smash this lad, win a fight, and then go straight back in.
I was adamant. I said to Martin, I said, make sure I'm on before the boys. I'm going out. I'm going to smash this fella. I'm setting the bar here. And I got the win. I was delighted with that. I put so much work into that fight, though. Like, that was all that previous loss. Like, that was all that just building up and culminated there. Then I think Erik came out next with the 2 fights after, smashed Owen Mac. It was a fight as well like that. A lot of people would have said Owen Mac would probably be too strong for Erik, because Owen's a veteran. He's multi-time Irish champion. He's fighting A-class as long as Erik is fighting amateur and pro, like, So he's been around the game. Erik smashed him that night, put on a serious performance. And then, of course, to top it off, Ian Crotty came out and got the win by knockout in the first round. Right hand in the first round.
Heavyweights and that. I like his body.
Exactly. But that was a great night for the club. And then it was actually, like, things just started falling into place for me, to be honest. It's like, I suppose, when you work hard and you put in all this work, because there was a year or two there where I was trying to get fights. You remember I was ranting on Facebook and everything, lads.
I remember that there was one in particular.
And there was people pulling out against me and all this, and I was getting so upset, and I was like, this is just like, I'm putting in all this work and nothing's happening for me. But then won the Irish title. I got an offer that night from Martin Horgan saying there's a European title shot next month if you want to take it. In 4 weeks, I had 2 big black eyes. And he was like, I don't know, you'll be able to fight. And I said, man, they're only black eyes, I'll be fine. Like, the raw combat. Then I went over there, beat Rob Allen, and won the European title. And then I was really on a high. I was like, oh my God, that's 2 titles in the space of a month. And after that, then got the offer for February against Christian Korzinowski for the 4 Nations belt. And then February won that belt. And then, like, my 3 fights in a row, 3 titles, I was on the highest high I could have been. I was really on top of the world. I think it was a week after that I got put into the world rankings for the first time as well. I debuted in the WBC at number 8 after
you're number 8. You're number 8 in the WBC now at the moment, aren't you?
Number 8. I think I'm number 11 in WBC, but number 8 in WMO. Because I've just been inactive in the WBC, obviously due to the injury. But after that, I was on the highest high, and then had the rematch against Rob Allen, and that's actually when to be honest, I went straight back into the camp, because he wanted to fight me again, and I was like, I'm not going to say no to that. Like, I'll fight you again, but whenever you want, like, Whereas I probably should have been like, I'll fight you, but I'm going to wait till later in the year to fight you. I was actually too arrogant and eager saying, I've already beaten you once. Like, what, 4 weeks after having a really hard fight. So what are you going to do with me this time? And I lost motivation in that training camp, and I was still a close fight, and I never made an excuse after, but I wasn't. I know watching that fight back, I was like, I could have done 10 times more than what I actually did. When I watch it back, it was a bit of a lazy performance, and I think it was just due to the fact that I reached a bit of a burnout. So took a couple of weeks off after that and reset, just recharged the batteries and stuff. But it was a good lesson as well. Like, all these losses are just lessons. You look at the back and you see yourself, like in that fight where I know I could have done more. So I was a bit disappointed with myself. Whereas my last loss on Yaku, I felt like I couldn't have really done. Maybe I could have done more, but like in the training, the effort I put in, and on the night, I poured everything into that fight. So even though I lost it, I wasn't upset or disappointed about it, because I watch it and I say I gave it 100%. You know, if I lose, I lose. I lost to a better man. You know, dodgy decision or not, it's an honest loss. You know. Whereas when you know you don't put in the work, you watch it and you say, oh, fuck, you know, I could have done more there, and that drives you on then to put in that effort in the next camp. I think, you know, it separates the good from the great, I think. You know?
Yeah. I think I watched that. I remember watching the second Rob Allen fight myself and Jack Campbell. We watched that fight live. We're actually in Gleason. So there's a couple of people behind us looking in on my phone, just watching the fight. I remember it was live on Facebook. And I thought, I'll be honest, I'm going to throw it out there now. I know, like, look, you're humble, Dylan, and you know you won't say that you're a Rob, but I'm going to throw it out here now. I don't give a fuck what Rob Allen says. You're a Rob, you're Rod.
You wouldn't be the only one to say that. That's all I'd say. I've got many takes and many a call about those two fights. But look, as I said, I watch win, lose or draw. Even in the fights I win, I look at it and say I could have done that a little bit better. Like, do you know what I mean? If I win by decision, I could have stopped them here if I did this. You know, so I have to be critical of myself. You know, like that's the only way to be, I think. You know. Yeah, but, absolutely. You wouldn't be the first one to say that, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there was a bit of uproar, you know, with that night.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, me and Jack weren't happy anyway. I'm not gonna repeat the words I said, but look,
there was a lot of back and forth on Facebook about that fight as well, if you remember.
Yeah,
there was comments flying back and forth. The whole time Clonmel was jumping on Royal Combat League. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I think Keane Farage is probably the most notable mention I just make there. His comments during that time were quite legendary, I think.
Absolutely. I wish I had screenshots of them. I'd probably do somewhere.
Eric, talk to us about kind of your last 18 months and fighting. You've had a lot of activity kind of in the last 18 months.
I suppose the Park Hotel, that was about this time last year, wasn't it?
It was July last year against Black Magic. That's right.
Emmanuel Elefant. It was at 68 as far as I
remember. It was 68 kilos. It was a catch weight.
It is a little bit heavier than what I usually would go for. Like, I walk around about 70, 71 maybe. So if I'm only cutting, 3 kilos for a fight, like, he was a bit heavier than me.
He was a big boy.
It was my first A class as well, actually. It was supposed to be was it A class with elbow pads? Yes.
Yeah, I remember he didn't bring his pads or something.
Yeah, on the day then they didn't bring pads or something. So
he only had one set of elbow pads.
So Dylan came over to me. He goes, "Here, look, Eric, I only have one set of pads. What do you think? Like, let's go full A class." I said, "Fuck it, go on with it." I ended up going full A class, and I just got very excited. I was very excited, just because it was the one fight where I was allowed to use elbows, so I was just going elbow mad.
Elbow crazy.
Elbow crazy. Like,
if you actually cut him in the first round. That's what drew. It was like a shark smelling blood. He cut him in the first round, and the next thing it was like elbow. I wanted to put him out, like elbows. That's all it was, like, do you know what I mean? And I got burnt out, like, and it was. And it's the home crowd as well, because I never fought in front of a home Clonmel crowd, whereas you have now twice, like, it can be draining as well as people are shouting and roaring. And you want to go.
People like everybody in that crowd.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that was an exciting one. And then after that, what was it? I had the title fight against David Ryan. That was it. And I was actually in college in Watford at this time, but I felt I moved back home. Watford it didn't suit me at all. Like, but I think that training camp wasn't good at all. But I think going into that fight, I was panicky. Do you know what I mean? I was panicky. First round was fine. And then he dropped me in the second one. And then I remember you were in the corner. I don't even remember the fight really, because I was that panicky. Like, do you know what I mean?
It was to come around. Your balance was gone. I think after he dropped you, it was very, like you said, it was panicky. I think. Do you know what I mean? As you said, balance was a little bit off, which is a huge thing as well. Yourself.
You need a steady stand. Like,
exactly. Like, once your equilibrium is gone from a shot, it's very hard to regain your balance. And any sort of a push or something can throw you this way and that way, and it's very hard to set your feet again. And that was K1 as well. Exactly. It's a higher pace fight. It's boom, 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 boom. He's very good with his hands too.
Exactly. See, even I watched back the video of it, and I think it was it could have been the end of the first or start of the second. I landed a leg kick on him, and I saw in the video that I hurt him. You know what I mean? But then when you're in there and you see it, you don't notice these things. Like, so I should have see, it's one of those self-analysis things as well after a fight. Like, so looking back on it now, I should have stayed chopping that leg. Do you know what I mean? Instead of, because whenever we went into clinch, he would go to the body. He'd land maybe 8-9 shots. Like, do you know what I mean? And in K1, that's score. Do you know what I mean? So anytime I was trying to get that knee to the head every time, but he just wasn't going down, and he was winning every time because he was landing more shots. Like.
Yeah, especially in the K1 exchanges, as you said, like one punch in K1 is equal to one kick, whereas in Thai boxing, like a strong low kick will nullify eight body punches and do nothing to you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's adjusting to the different styles as well, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly. And then my last fight, that was Aaron O Reilly. Yeah,
Aaron O Reilly
Forgiven 3. Yeah, that was I actually felt really good for that fight. I think I had a great fight camp. I enjoyed every bit of it.
Absolutely, it was the best I've ever seen him train. I was in serious shape for that fight.
Getting in there, I felt comfortable. Even walking out to the ring, you're feeling edgy or whatever. But I felt very comfortable in that ring.
I remember that first round. That fight. Like your kicking in that first round was beautiful. Like
that was my plan. Just leg kick.
Yeah.
I mean, I was taking my time, but then. I was actually talking to him afterwards. He caught me with the elbow at the end of the first round.
That's been an elbow, spin back elbow.
The elbow.
Yeah, it was nice.
But you got up.
I was seeing stars after, I stood up. I was like, whoa, okay. I just got blacked out, like, do you know what I mean? But I was fine after. Then I remember it was the first kick.
Very first kick you should.
First kick in the second round. Then, man, I couldn't be waiting it. Couldn't be waiting it. Do you know what I mean? So it's been a bit of a bad run in 2019, but We'll see what happens.
I'd like to see you run it back against him, though. That's one fight I'd like to see, because that first round, apart from that,
I would fight him again, but he's boxing now, isn't he?
He's gone to pro boxing.
Pro boxing, really?
I swear to God, he's gone to pro boxing. Yep. I think your leg kicks drove him away.
I remember watching that fight, and like that first round, like if I was scoring that first round, I would have scored it to you. Then, but see, the decisive moment for me, I thought, was that elbow. That elbow at the end. Yeah.
But I think you were in control of that fight the first round. I think the first round or two in Thai boxing tells a lot. Like, it was, as you said, like, compared to other fights you've had, you weren't panicked. You were sitting back. It was lovely. He's a very jumpy fighter because he's K1, and I think. Look, he landed the elbow and whatever, but as you said, like, I was in the corner with him. He was looking straight at me. His eyes, within 20 seconds, he was 100% again, and he was ready to go. And I think he would have went out. And I think Erik would have stopped him in 3 or 4 rounds in that fight. I could see it coming, but unfortunately, look, it's just, as you said, it's been a bad run of luck more than anything. That foot was, I mean, fucking, it was like a tennis ball in your foot after that fight. Like, it was a horrific injury. It was, it was just unlucky because you were well on your way to a great win that fight, But look, these things happen. As I said, it's ups and downs, isn't it?
Exactly.
Setbacks and recoveries.
The losses are good, like, do you know what I mean? I think everybody should have a fight, like, do you know what I mean? Because it does humble you in a way, like, and especially, a loss, like, if you're able to lose and get back in fighting and lose again and get back in fighting, do you know what I mean? I think it says a lot about a person, like, do you know what I mean? It's hunger, like, as they say, like.
Absolutely, and kind of like hindsight is 20/20, and I think when you're able to reflect back on these losses, it grows you as a person, not just as a fighter, but as a person as well. It shows like how you deal with adversity more than anything else.
Big time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Erik, kind of with regards to your kind of plans going forward, do you have any kind of plans for fighting going forward? Do you have anything lined up, or?
See, I don't know what the story is, what's going to happen this year at all. I was hoping to get on a show in November. I think Dommy was hosting a show. Whether that's happened because of this COVID thing, I don't know. Everything is up in the air at the moment.
I think there's a possibility of maybe a show there's maybe one in September, which I can't see going ahead. One in October, which again is dodgy enough. In November, maybe we might get lucky for November. I'd love to see you back in the ring before the end of the year, but again, it's dependent on whether we can actually do that. You know what I mean?
With the pandemic,
it's because like a lot of these shows you've got the bar at the show, and like it's normally yourself being at a show, there's a big crowd, a couple of hundred people there, and like like if pubs aren't allowed to open with a bar, I can't see them allowing a show like this indoors with a bar there, and if there's no bar, people won't go. Like, because yourself, people go to these things
drink.
It's the same with anything. So Please
like,
God, we can get something going.
I tell you one thing, I don't go for the drink. Like, I often go to Erik's fights, I sit beside him, and I'd be there. I don't know what it is, but I'd be there analysing the fight, so I'm talking to Erik. I'm like, geez, see that fella, see what he's doing there. And I'd be saying to Erik then, I'd be like, the other fella now should adjust and do this, do that, and I'm just like, it's like I'm sitting in front of the table like I am right now, and I'd be watching the UFC or a boxing event, and you know what I mean? Like, it is like, there's nothing like going to an event, whether it's amateur or a pro event. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not better going watching fights on a Saturday or Friday evening.
100%, yeah. Seeing it live in the flesh right in front of you, hearing the slaps and everything is brilliant, yeah. I miss it now.
Lads, kind of with relation to kind of local fighters, like who do you like in between both clubs? We have Courage and we have SBG in Clonmel. Yeah. Like, is there any kind of local fighters you think will have a massive future in the fight game in terms of Muay Thai and MMA?
Yeah, I think like there's half.
There's a lot of talent.
To be honest, half our club and half SBG can have big futures in the fight game. Like, it's the talent is there. It's what I always come back to is like hard work beats talent every day. Like, I've seen lads come through the club, and you probably name a few as well. We won't name them, but we'll. You know, like you know of them that have had buckets of talent for days. Like, there's lads who pass through the club who could be world champions by now, but they just never really worked at it. You know, I think there's a huge potential. Like, if we just go on to kids and juniors in our club, like, you've got like young Jason, you've Josh, you've Bonnie, Eric's sister Bonnie, my little brother Alex, you've got Marco, there's Keane. Keane is only I think 7 or 8. And his technique is perfect. Like, I can't get over it. Do you know what I mean? Him in Saturday and did the sprints with gallows as well. Like, you know, like this fella is you know, like, but again, it comes down to the hard work. I think there's a huge potential for future talent there. And the same with SBG. You've the likes of Hassie there, Frank Marr. You've Colin himself, who's waiting to get a big break in pro MMA. Like, you know, he could be a star before we know it. There's huge talent in Clonmel. It's for such a small little town. We produce some great combat athletes, and that's not even including the boxing club. I mean, the history of Clonmel Boxing Club is huge as well. Some great stars have come out of the boxing club, you know. So we've got that talent for a small town.
Absolutely.
You know, it's there.
And this for a small town, like the talent that's comes out of it is ridiculous. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not high. I think in kind of. And I don't think it's highlighted enough, really. Do you know what I mean? The talent that comes through this town in terms of combat sports, it's not highlighted enough.
100%, it's not. No, it's not. That's why I was delighted when myself and Ian won our titles. We actually got a mayoral reception from Richie Malloy, and like, it was great to see that, because you see a lot of the boxers who win All Irelands and Europeans, they get a mayoral reception.
Especially Thai fighters.
Exactly, because people don't know what it is. But I think. If you asked a lot of people around Clonmel now about Muay Thai, they might have some idea. They'd say, "Oh, is that MMA or is that Courage?" So like, a lot of people do know Courage and the SBG name now. It's not all just boxing, so it's good to see us getting a bit more recognition as well. Because, like I said, we've always been putting in work, even if it was behind the scenes. Like, you know, so it is nice to get a bit of recognition for your work as well. You know, 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dylan, with your current injury, like, what is the status of that now? How are you getting on with your recovery?
I was getting on fine until Erik was there the other night. Nothing major now, okay? So it was like I have to go back for a cartilage surgery there in 3 weeks' time. I actually got the letter today. It's 26th of August. 3 weeks time. Yeah, I have to go back and get another little bit of cartilage taken out. To be honest, it was look, it's not the end of the world. Last year, like I said earlier, I tore my ACL when I was 14, falling off a wall. And the doctors just told me to leave it, because they said I wasn't playing sport at the time. As I said, I was overweight, and I'd say the doctors were like, he's grand, he doesn't even need that. You know, and they kind of just left it. So it was kind of bothering me on and off for years. And last year, I think I hurt it coming down off the step of the sauna. I think I was cutting weight for the fight. It was after Yaku, a couple of weeks after Yaku. I was cutting weight for a fight, and I had actually hurt my left knee. I got a bang on my left knee, and I was going to step down. I'll never forget that. I was going to step down off the sauna on that leg. And I was like, oh no, Jesus, that knee is sore now. I just go down the other leg. I go down the right leg, and like this big popping noise, and my knee caved in. Excuse me, inside in the Clonmel swimming pool. And I remember I dragged myself to the changing room now. I knew something was wrong. I was like, this ain't right. Went for that was actually a cartilage. It was torn meniscus, torn cartilage. Now it was fine within 3 days, and I actually went back training for a week while I waited for the results on the MRI, because I was like, I'm not out of the fight yet now. And so then I got the results of the MRI, and they said, look, you've got torn meniscus and you've torn cartilage, so we need to take that out. And then when they went to do that, they had obviously the arthroscopic camera in my knee, and they realised that my ACL was torn. They said it to me, like, they were all, when I woke up after the cartilage surgery, there was like 4 doctors around the bed staring at me. I was like, they're after fucking up my knee now, like, or something, you know. And they were all standing around me. I was like, what's going on here? Like, and they said to me, they said, do you realise your ACL is torn as well? I was like, oh, well, I tore that years ago, but I thought it kind of got better. They were like, no, like, once it's torn, it's torn. It's gone. So they were like, if you want to get back to what you're doing, you better get that sorted, because that's causing a lot of your issues with your knee, because there's no ligament there to support it.
Yeah.
So I got that done. I was on the shelf then for a few months. That was tough now, the first month or two, on crutches, stuck on the couch all day. But look, I got past it anyway. But just about, I'd say it was about 3 weeks ago now, was it? I was doing some sort of a warm-up in the club. I think I was doing a couple of jumps back and forth. And like I was back sparring Alex and all, like my brother, and I was doing light bits with Erik. And I probably shouldn't have been, to be honest, you know, but sure, I was just pulling to get back. Whatever way I landed anyway, my knee popped the very same way as it did last year, and I knew I was in pain for 3 days, and then the pain went away. I said, I actually told the doctor, I said, I guarantee you it's cartilage torn, and he said it is. But on the MRI, the ACL is perfect. He said the graft is actually 100%. So he was like, look, I'm not even worried about your cartilage, to be honest, because if your ACL was gone, you would be in awful trouble. You could be out for another 2 years. Whereas he said this is probably another month or 2 of a roadblock, just to take things easy now. So I actually, last weekend, I went to Dublin to this movement coach, Wayne McGrath. He does, like, if you ever remember Elo Portal with Conor McGregor, all that movement stuff and the bear crawls and the joint rotations, like we did in the warm-ups the last couple of days. Because he was basically explaining to me that my joints and my ligaments aren't prepared enough for the load I'm trying to give them, and especially after surgery, all my muscles have seized up. Because I mean, I was on the couch like this with my leg up for about 5 or 6 weeks. And ever since then, you know, so I'm just trying to get back to it slowly. Look, I kind of learnt my lesson after tearing the cartilage again. I'm just going to take it easy now. And like we said, there's not going to be many fight shows before the end of the year. So I'm not really missing out on much, to be honest.
It's probably a blessing in disguise.
A blessing in disguise. But I was really thinking about it recently. I was like, COVID couldn't have come at a better time for me, you know. It's great. So like, I can just take it easy now and build it back up and not rush back into things. But it's hard when I'm watching the likes of him and Alex sparring and like Joe, I get there, get stuck into it. Then I'm sitting on the side watching him. Like, I'd love to get in there now, you know.
Oh, stop!
I just have to self-control now and just learn to pull back a small bit, you know.
Yeah,
but it's all good. It's all good.
I remember once it was before the fight night last year, before the one at Clonmel.
In the Park Hotel, was it? In
the Park Hotel. I remember watching the 2 of you sparring. Everyone else was going light. The 2 of you are just fucking punching the heads off each other.
That came up on my newsfeed the other day. I swear to God, there was actually, I think it was Jack videoing it. Was it you videoing it?
It was me videoing it.
You came flying off the camera because I threw you. You get back up, and in the next video, I come flying off the other side of the camera. Sweet. That was hilarious. That was a hard spar. That was the night before.
I remember watching that because I remember so Alex was there. Jack was preparing for his boxing fight at the same time. And I remember the 2 of you were just going hell for leather. So I remember I stopped watching everyone else, and I was like, "Oh, watch the 2 boys here now."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd miss that as well, like,
you would.
That's what I miss, like, do you know what I mean? Because it's great to get stuck in with the lads like that, you know.
Exactly.
There's nothing better than it.
Yeah, and look, I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for you both, because like, you know, you definitely, you know, you both had good runs, and like, look, Erik, there's definitely a road back to the title for you, definitely for another title fight.
100%,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
100%. There's a different way to be in the WBC rankings as well. I'm telling you right now, like he's at this longer than I am. It's like you said yourself. It's like you've had your few speed bumps now, and like, it's unfortunate COVID came, because to be honest, it
would have been a perfect time.
But I mean, you were obviously training. He was training over the lockdown. I was giving the lads things to do in the group chat and all over lockdown. I mean, Erik, my brother Alex, and maybe 3 or 4 others were the only ones that were ever replying to me. Do you know? And it's showing now, because when they've come back, I mean, you're sharper than I've ever seen you, to be honest, since you've come back. And there's no fight. You know, he's smashing it, and everyone's saying to me as well, like, what was he doing over lockdown? Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's the same with the likes of Alex and a couple of others. You see the ones who were putting in the work behind the scenes. They didn't need me there in front of their face saying, come on. Do you know what I mean? They were there, and they realised, like, I need to put in the work here now. And it's showing now. It really is showing, because as I say, I've never seen him so sharp. I can't wait to see him fight again.
See, that's going back to what you were saying as well, Dylan. You know, you're training for yourself, kind of a thing, like.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's not for anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you might have people that you tell them something to do, they do it because they do that because you told them to do it.
Exactly.
Not because it's for them to do. Like, it's an intrinsic kind of a thing, like, you know.
It's very true.
Lads, kind of looking away from the kind of Muay Thai side of things, we're going to kind of talk about MMA.
Right.
So kind of Fight Island has kind of happened, and the UFC has come back, I suppose, post lockdown, and all the fights have been very good. But I'm going to kind of talk about someone who has kind of a Muay Thai background. Israel Adesanya. He has a fight coming up soon against Paulo Costa, and now Adesanya had a great performance against Robert Whittaker, and he stopped him, and he has very big fanfare since then. Now, he did have kind of an underwhelming fight against Yoel Romero a couple of months ago before the lockdown. It was a very cagey affair. Now, look, to be fair, I wouldn't jump in there Romero and go hell for leather because he's just a dangerous human being. But like, how would you assess kind of the upcoming fight between Adesanya and Costa? Who do you think could maybe have an advantage come into that? And Dylan, I'm going to come to you first with regards to it.
I think for that one, I would be back in Adesanya, but I think Costa is going to give him a lot more trouble than Romero gave him, and he's going to give him a lot more trouble than Whittaker gave him, because like Romero is, like you said, Romero can be really cagey, and he gets in these wars, but he only gets in the wars with people that will engage him in a brawl. Adesanya will stand back and wait for someone to do something, and so will Romero. So that's why I think that fight ended up being the way it was, because they're both kind of counter strikers. And Whittaker is kind of a charger, but he's very smart. Whereas I think Costa, like, not that he's not smart, but like, he's going to fight you, and you better be ready for him to come swinging at you, you know. So I think he might actually cause Adesanya the most problems of anybody. But I still think Adesanya will have him. I think he's just a bit too sharp, and he's a bit too crisp. And I think if he can get past maybe the first 2 or 3 rounds of like a heavy barrage from Costa, I think he could even stop him in the 4th or 5th round, you know, because his striking is just so crisp, and his angles are brilliant, and every time he lands, it's just perfection, you know. But like I said, I actually think Costa will be his hardest challenge, because Costa is just a mauler. He's so strong.
He has great wrestling as well.
Yeah. And as you see against Romero, he had no fear of your Romero. Like, he went in to kill him. You know, it was kill or be killed with Costa. So I think it's going to be a great fight, but I still think Adesanya is going to edge it just slightly now. Just slightly, I think.
Erik, do you have any kind of different opinions?
Yeah, no, look, I agree. Look, I think Adesanya will have the upper hand in this, but I know it's 2 very different styles of fighting, you know, clash and joy. Costa, you know, he likes his body shots, Joey. He likes charging, he likes getting in dirty, like, do you know what I mean? Whereas Adesanya, you know, he stands out. He's clever, like, he picks his shots, you know, he knows how to throw things and when to throw them, do you know what I mean? Whereas I feel that Costa, you know, his judgment isn't quite as good as Adesanya's, which is why I think Adesanya it'll be a tough fight, yeah, absolutely, but Adesanya will come out top.
Yeah, so you said it's a clash of styles, isn't it? When you've got 2 opposing styles, it suits a fight better than when you've got 2 of the same styles, because they're going to clash, and then that makes an exciting fight.
Styles make fights.
It does, 100% they do, like, yeah.
I'm going to go on to the next fight in a minute, but I'd like to get your opinion on this. A potential Darren Till Adesanya fight. Would you like to see that?
No, it'd be great. It'd be great for him.
Till and Adesanya, geez, yeah, that'd be interesting.
It'd be a great stand-up fight, wouldn't it? It'd be a serious stand-up fight, you know.
That'd be interesting.
But I think Adesanya takes him all day, to be honest. Yeah. I think Darren Till's great, but I mean, like, he still has a long way to go because he's young as well. But I mean, judging by what he did against Whittaker, not that it was a bad performance, I think Adesanya takes him. But I'd love to see them fight, like, just pure Muay Thai. It'd be amazing.
Exactly.
It'd be amazing to see them fight Muay Thai.
Like I said to you, Dylan, the other day, it's a Thai fight in the cage. Like, that's what
it is. 100%. Yeah. And I suppose if they did fight, you wouldn't see a takedown anyway, because they'd love to stand with each other, I'm sure. And you know, get into a kind of a kickboxing Muay Thai match. That'd be a great fight, actually. It'd be a very good fight. I hope Till works his way back up to the title, and that fight becomes a possibility, you know.
Absolutely. The other upcoming fight, it's in October, I believe. You have Khabib versus Justin Gaethje. Now, you have Khabib obviously on the back of 2 very good wins against Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, and you have Justin Gaethje, who caused a shock against Tony Ferguson in the first fight, you know, since lockdown. Who do you think has the edge of this? Because obviously Gaethje is very explosive. You know, like, he has very good one-punch knockout power, but Khabib's ground game is just unbelievable. Like, what do you think about the fight, lads?
Khabib is Khabib. Like, at the end of the day, like, it's so hard to go against him. He's just a machine. But I think Justin Gaethje is the person to beat him if anyone's to beat him, because Gaethje is Gaethje's got a great wrestling background as well. I've never seen him even go for a takedown.
He has 0%. There's a stat there. He has 0% takedown offense in UFC.
Serious?
No way.
Yeah,
Jesus.
0%. He's never attempted a takedown in his whole UFC career.
Really?
Now he has a very high. I was looking at the percentage of it. Very high takedown defense.
Yeah,
but he's never shot a takedown. He's 0%.
He likes standing up and fighting.
He does,
He likes standing and banging.
But he's so good. His wrestling is so good from back in the day. He's well able to stuff those takedowns and actually throw shots. I think that'd be a great fight. I think if anyone is to beat him, it's Gaethje, because his boxing is unbelievable and he has takedown defense. But like, Khabib is Khabib. Like, once Khabib gets
on the ground, like, that's it.
Like, if he gets you down a minute into a round, you're staying there till the end of the round. Like, if he doesn't stop you before that, because we haven't seen any different yet. Like, everyone he's fought, he's absolutely manhandled. So I think it's very, very hard to go against him. But I suppose, like, if you were a betting man and Justin Gaethje might not be a bad shout there.
Yeah. I'd love to see Gaethje get the win, and then we get a McGregor-Gaethje fight, because I think that fight in itself is a fantastic fight.
That'd be a solid fight. It would, yeah. It'd be a great fight.
Yeah, that'd be something different.
Stand and bang fight as well. Like,
again,
yeah. Like,
That's not going the 5 rounds.
No way.
Like, with the kind of the wrestlers, I fully respect the jiu-jitsu and the whole wrestling side of things when watching a UFC fight, like, or any type of fight, like, but I just appreciate it. Two fellas are standing up and they just go hell for leather, like, do you know what I mean?
It's different, like, when you hear the slaps of kicks and punches, it's different, like. It is different.
Kind of with the regards to combat sports, recently in kind of the last month, Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury have verbally agreed to fight. Now, this is obviously two very contrasting styles. You have Fury, who was very unorthodox in the way he fights, and you have kind of Anthony Joshua who kind of adapts that kind of European boxing style, though, kind of with a rigid jab. Like, who do you think wins that fight? Because obviously Fury dominated Deontay Wilder, and there's obviously question marks on Wilder's fighting style, very one-dimensional, whereas Anthony Joshua, he seems like he's probably more adaptable. Like, how do you analyse that fight? Who do you think maybe has the edge?
That's actually a very tough fight for, I think, isn't it?
I know. I just think Tyson Fury, I think he's just full of surprises, lads.
Yeah, isn't he?
He could pull something out from under his sleeve. Like, you just never know.
Yeah.
You just never know. He's very unpredictable. Like.
I think he would upset AJ with his style. I think he's dancing around because, like Joshua, as you said, he's very rigid with his jab. Like, I think he can fall into a habit of kind of following lads like this. Like, Fury just dances and moves and dances and moves. But like you said, he's full of surprises because, I mean, he just never know. He danced away from Wilder in the first fight, and he got dropped twice, and everyone said he couldn't match his power. In the second fight, he walked him down. It was like he just wanted to kill him, like he wanted to finish him. Yeah. And he walked him down, and he actually used inside boxing instead. Like, it was a total change from his style. Like, so I mean, you just don't know what he's going to come out with. I think his footwork and his jab would be a bit much for AJ. I think AJ can be, as you said, he can be rigid. But it's a tough one to call because, I mean, AJ still has power. Like, and
he's a heavy hitter. He's like, if he lands, I think Tyson isn't bothered. Like, but if I had to put money on it, it's on Tyson. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's hard to go against him.
But it'll be a good fight.
Yeah. And like, looking back at that kind of Fury Wilder fight, like, Fury, remember, he got dropped in that 12th round, and it was an absolute beautiful shot, like that beautiful left hand that Wilder landed on that time. Yeah. And Fury said, and he got back up during that 12th round, and he backed Wilder up and nearly stopped Wilder in that 12th round. That's when he knew. He said, "Look, I can change my game plan. I can actually stop him."
Yes, exactly.
Because Wilder can't fight on the back foot, like. As powerful as he is, he can't fight on the back foot. I think that kind of showed that in the Lewis Ortiz fight, when Lewis Ortiz was pinging the head off him for 8 rounds, and Wilder got that one shot. Like,
he just got that one shot and cleaned him out. Then he did, yeah. He got lucky with that one.
But like, it's interesting because obviously you have that third Tyson Fury Wilder fight. You just don't know that man. Like, you don't know Wilder. He can knock Fury out, and he could upset though everyone, and we mightn't even see this fight.
That's true, because he still has that touch of death, doesn't he? In the right hand, like,
absolutely.
no matter how bad his technique is, if he hits you, like, you're going to be in serious trouble.
It's good night, Irene.
It is.
Yeah. Good night, God bless.
Dylan, before the lockdown, before we actually just locked down, we were actually close to having the white collar event. The white collar event, that there's plenty of people in Clonmel training for that. Talk to us about the upcoming. I know obviously with lockdown we don't know there's a set date for it yet, but talk to us a bit about the upcoming white collar event and that's coming up.
Yeah, so that was actually we actually ran into a bit of bad luck with that. As you said, it was that was scheduled for the 20th of March, the Friday, and it was the Friday before that the kind of big announcement was made about the country not going into a full lockdown, but it was when indoor events and stuff were cancelled. So I was still hopeful, but I remember reading on the Irish Times, it was like 11:45, and by 12 o'clock I had a call from the Park Hotel saying, look, we can't facilitate the event next week. And it was then a couple of days, I think it was actually the next Friday, so it would have been the morning of the event, we went into a full lockdown. So in a way, it was look, I had a week's notice to kind of say it wasn't going ahead. If it was the morning, that's what I said, because I'd originally wanted to book it for the week earlier. So like you can imagine if they'd all weighed in Thursday night and they were ready to go, and next thing Friday morning comes and it's like, sorry, the event's not going ahead. So I suppose it would have been, look, at least they had a week to kind of to settle it in. I was hopeful then. I had it rebooked a couple of times over the summer because the hotel were very busy with their dates getting rebooked. Currently, it's booked for the 23rd of October, but again, I just can't see it going ahead in a way that's viable at that time, because obviously it's a white collar, it's for charity, it's for my girlfriend Casey, her little nephew Jack. He's got a hemiplegic cerebral palsy. So that what that means is, like, hemiplegia is, say if he was to get a cut on his hand and it was a deep cut, his blood wouldn't clot, so it would keep bleeding. So it could be quite dangerous. He's got to take this factor every day through a needle up here. It's to keep his blood topped up. So like if he had a small bump or a bruise, it would replenish the blood. But if it was still a big cut, now he'd have to go to hospital. But what happened was, when he was born, I don't know, was it maybe 2 or 3 days after he was born, they didn't realise he had hemiplegia, and he actually had a bleed on the brain at birth. So that went on for a couple of days, and obviously that like, a couple of days with a bleed on the brain isn't good. So eventually I think he actually went into a coma for all the world, and then he came out with that with cerebral palsy. So that's why he's got hemiplegic cerebral palsy now. But he's doing great actually, and like I just want to say, for anyone watching this who was involved or that bought tickets, and like the likes of Erik and all that helped out with him, I was huge thank you. I've been involved in 3 white collar events, so the support I got for this is unbelievable. Like the first Muay Thai show in the Park Hotel, I sold 300 tickets. The second one, I sold 430. I had 550 tickets sold for this event, and I had at least 50 or 100 tickets more to go, but I just couldn't, because I was like, the hotel told me 500 is the most. But like, I was after overselling. I was like, this has gone mad.
Do you know what though? You could sell them on the black market anyway, though. I don't think the hotel.
Exactly. Saying nothing about it, like, But look, we were sick about it, but the good thing that did come out of it was, I suppose that they did, like, the sponsor. I gave everyone a sponsor card, so there was about 57 sponsor cards going around, which again is nuts that there was even 57 cards going around collecting money for me. I don't quite have them all back yet, because look, it's been hard to meet people over lockdown. Obviously, I've only started collecting them the last 2 or 3 weeks. But it's looking very good. It's looking very promising. It's looking to hit the numbers that I wanted it to hit off the cards. So at least I suppose that money is there that we can send up to the parents, and they can get another round of therapy for him. He basically went to Manchester in February, the month before it, to do what's called constrained therapy. So I believe it's his right hand that's affected. I think it's his right hand, but whatever hand it is, they basically cast that whole arm for the month, and he's made use his left hand. But I remember Nicky and Dermot, the parents, were telling me it was like the last week he started to see the benefits more so. Because he was starting to get used to it then. So it would be great to get him back over there for another couple of rounds. But with the money raised from the sponsorship cards alone, if they keep going the way they're going, that's enough for 2 rounds of therapy, which is insane. So I could have never thought that. I was saying if the whole event got enough for 1 round, we'd be laughing. But like, according to the ticket sales I had planned, I had all the estimates done. We could have got 3 or 4 rounds of therapy in the end of it if the ticket sales had done what they were going to do. Obviously, look, that's why I don't want to settle for doing it for like 100 people in a social distance audience. You know, like
it's all atmosphere goes that way.
It's all atmosphere, isn't it? It's not that like. So look, I'm going to wait till things are cleared up to run it, but at least we have raised money from the sponsor cards. There has been tickets sold. Look, no one's looking for a refund for the 20 quid they paid for the ticket. It's for charity, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whatever money is there, I'm going to send up to the parents over the next month or so, and please God, we can get it done hopefully before the end of the year. But look, if not, it'll be January or February. But like, the boxers are still mad to go. They're texting me all the time. What's the story? Like, can we get back training? Like, they loved it. Like, and as I said, I had 40 boxers involved in that white collar. There was 20 fights in that night. Like most white collar events you've ever seen, it'd be 8 to 10 fights. Do you know, like, I had
20 fights. Like
20 fights. There wouldn't be that much on a professional card. I had to tell people stop texting me about it. I was like, there's no room left. I'm sorry. Like the interest, I cannot express the gratitude and the thanks, like, because there's so many people that text and they wanted to help, and if they couldn't be a part of it in the fighting sense, they were like, if you need any hand with anything, if you need a prize for the raffle, if you need this, that, the other thing, like, everyone was offering a hand, like. So it was just amazing. It brought everyone together, and there was people from Cashel doing it, from Tiptown, from Clonmel. There was a fella travelling from Kilkenny up the road to train, like, you know, it was crazy, crazy. Even though the event didn't go ahead, it was definitely one of the best 8 weeks I've had. That the training together, like, you were there pretty much every night as well, helping out the lads as well. Like, so he was a part of it as well. It was great. Like, you know, seeing them come in as a novice first day, and then they were ready to fight by the end of it.
The difference was crazy. The first week, like, to was it week 7 or 8? 7 or 8. The difference was unbelievable. I mean, for everyone. Do you know what I mean? You couldn't pick out somebody who had improved much more than anybody else. Like, do you know what I mean? Everybody had.
They were all getting better at the same rate, and they were all up here ready to go. And look, as I said, it was just unfortunate the way things went. But look, it's okay. We'll get it done at some stage. We'll get it done at some stage, you know.
Yeah, and hopefully, you know, as you said, like, it's not in a socially distanced audience, and we can get you we can get you the numbers, and look, we can.
Exactly, and you want the atmosphere, a bit of crack in the crowd, and I think when there's that many people, you have 40 people involved, I mean, everyone there was looking for 20 to 30 tickets, like, because they have so many family members and people that they've never been in the ring before. So you can imagine, like, if someone was involved in a fight that was never fighting, their whole family wants to go and see this crack, like, you know. So it was a big thing. It was deadly.
Yeah. Absolutely, and look, we hopefully with going ahead, we can get as much money raised with everyone involved in
100%.
You know,
it'd be great.
It'd be good to get the therapy done. Lads, thanks very much for coming on tonight. It's been absolutely fantastic chat. It's been an absolutely fantastic chat, and I've really enjoyed this. It's good to kind of get insight from both yourselves. And, you know, with regards to both your fighting careers and kind of what plans you have going forward. It's good to hear kind of some of the stories.
It's great. It's brilliant. Really enjoyed that now. Keep up the good work yourself as well. You're doing a great job. So fair play to you.
Absolutely.
Keep going. Wish you all the best, man.
Thanks very much, lads. For our viewers, I've just a little announcement to make as well. So today I've got notified that I've been asked to go on the Mad Red United channel. So this Sunday, I will be joining Adam Stott on that channel along with other people. And we will be talking all things Manchester United. So that'll be live on YouTube at 7 p.m. on Sunday. Good man. So I'll be on there talking all things football and all things Manchester United, and hopefully, look, I don't rant too much because I sometimes get a bit too impassioned on this channel. But I can be forgiven for that. But look. Thanks everyone for watching as well. This will be uploaded to YouTube, Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Buzzsprout. And this will be available very soon. And Dylan and Erik, thanks very much again for coming on. Have a good time.
All the best. Cheers, lads. See you soon, man.
Take care,
bud. Bye-bye.